now, where they have just started the ceremony to commemorate the lives lost in Katrina. This is at the foot of Canal Street.
Please rise for the invocation, which will be administered by the Reverend Robert Jackson.
In the book of Isaiah, the 43rd chapter, we find these words. But now thus saith the Lord that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name, thou art mine. When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee. And through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned. No flame shall kindle upon thee. For I am the Lord thy God, the Holy One of Israel, thy Savior. I gave Egypt for thy ransom, Ethiopia and Seba for thee. Since thou wast precious in my sight, thou hast been honorable, and I have loved thee. Therefore will I give men for thee, and people for thy life. Oh God, our Heavenly Father, we just thank you. We thank you that we're here one more time. You've kept us, you've blessed us, you've never, ever left us. God, we thank you for your presence. We thank you for your love and your keeping. And as we come together in the spirit of prayer and remembrance in this sacred, in this hallowed place, God, we just thank you. We just thank you. We just thank you. 18 years, 216 months, 6,570 days, 157,000 hours, 9 million minutes, 567 million seconds. You've kept us. You've blessed us. We come, oh God, just saying thank you. We pray that you would bless us to understand the lesson of this hour. This place is not our home. But God, we thank you for those who care, who tend to us. We thank you for these, our elected officials. We thank you for our mayor, our council. We thank you, O Lord, for these professional funeral directors. The Crescent City, the Orleans embalmers, the Louisiana morticians, the embalmers and funeral directors. We thank them for caring. We thank them for their service. We thank everyone that has labored to put together and keep this place and keep it ever fresh on our minds.
And you're taking
God,
a listen
remember,
to the ceremony happening right now at the Katrina Victim Memorial at the foot of Canal Street. This is where some 100 unidentified victims of Hurricane Katrina were buried. You just heard the Reverend there praying and thanking all of the funeral workers who helped to bury the people. Again, these are more than 100, almost 100 unidentified people who died during or after Hurricane Katrina in the New Orleans area. And that's the ceremony here happening to remember those people and remember Hurricane Katrina. Again, on this day 18 years ago, Katrina made landfall, devastating a large swath of the Gulf Coast from New Orleans to Biloxi, Mississippi.
And actually, in some ways, from almost Cocodrie all the way over to Bayou La Batterie in the wider sense of impacts. Among those being remembered are those lost in St. Bernard Parish. Olivia Vidal is there.
John and Kelsey, in about an hour here, a memorial service will be held here in Shell Beach near the Katrina Memorial for the residents who lost their lives in St. Bernard Parish during the devastating storm. Take a look if you've never seen this memorial here before in Shell Beach. This is it. It lists 164 names of residents of St. Bernard Parish who died during Hurricane Katrina, and today they will be remembered with a wreath-laying ceremony. Here you can see folks are already arriving, starting to set up. Again, that ceremony starts at 9:30. But yes, 18 years have passed, but the memories of Katrina remain with those who suffered the most. Today, starting at 9:30 a.m., St. Bernard Parish will hold its annual Hurricane Katrina Memorial at this Shell Beach Monument. Local and state leaders are expected to be in attendance, like Billy Nungesser and Senator Bill Cassidy. They're expected to be here to remember those who died as a result of Katrina's destruction. This is an important event for the folks of St. Bernard Parish, as many have vowed to continue to honor the memory of those who lost their lives. They also say it's an important event and time for those who survived.
We had made a commitment to meet here every year on this date to read the names for the family members.
Hollis Alford, Angela Alvear, Evelyn Ankar, Douglas Arsenault.
I tell people there's something special in the soil in Louisiana, and surely that's true here in St. Bernard.
That's a look at last year's ceremony, but the message remains the same. Again, of the nearly 2,000 people who died during Hurricane Katrina, 164 were St. Bernard Parish residents. This event will conclude with the laying of a memorial wreath in the Mississippi River Gulf outlet by relatives of those who died in Hurricane Katrina. So today's Hurricane Katrina ceremony begins at 9:30 here, right next to the Katrina Memorial, as folks here continue to set up and prepare for guests to arrive in about an hour here. But for now, reporting in Shell Beach, Olivia Vidal, Fox 8, Local First.